There is no doubt we are in the midst of an ecological and climate crisis, and to avert it in any meaningful way, we need radical action, and we need it now. In this programme, we will see the reality we are facing. Rivers that have been denuded of wildlife, people losing their homes and businesses to flooding, and communities in Africa living with water scarcity. We're also going to meet those working to mitigate the impact of some of these threats, see some of the innovative approaches and solutions that are being taken, and talk about what the future holds. Welcome to Adapting for Tomorrow's Environment. I'm joined by Terry Fuller, Chief Executive of CIWEM. Terry, we live in a fairly benign climate. It's a lovely day today. We're next to a gorgeous river, and yet we see extreme environmental events around the world. How can we understand the sort of changes that are happening around us?
It's actually one of our biggest challenges in that a lot of the parts of the world that need to make the most progress with climate change happen to enjoy fairly temperate conditions for a lot of the time. So having that conversation with people about the urgency and the need to make a difference to lifestyle, etc., is challenged by that. But just to put it into context, I think probably all of us can think back over our lifetime, and it just feels now that we are experiencing extreme climate events a lot more than we can remember from when we were younger. And in fact, the record books are showing that. We are continually breaking records. There's always the hottest summer ever, etc. And that's not without its cause. The parallel I would use is if this was the athletics field and we were seeing this many records being broken, we would look, would we not, for some sort of a foul play drugs campaign, whatever it might be. We wouldn't accept that. So I think with the increasing sort of frequency and evidence that we see of a changing climate, we need to look for the cause.
One of the results of the coronavirus lockdown was a drop in carbon emissions, but all the experts tell us it wasn't nearly enough to make a big long-term impact. So how can we really get the changes, the adaptation that's needed?
It does show the measure of the challenge that we are facing, for sure, in that with some really quite significant changes in people's lifestyle, we still haven't seen enough by way of carbon reduction. But it has incredible value because what we've shown is that people are prepared to make changes to their lives, and hopefully what we will see is that the way people have adapted during the pandemic period will have some lasting change. It's really important we look to those things that we've adjusted in our lives that will help climate and continue to do those. Largely what we've seen though is actually the reduction of consumption. We've been doing less things, we've been consuming less things during that period, and that's shown quite a significant reduction in carbon. But of course what we haven't seen so much of is a change in the way that we do things. So the way that we generate power, the way that we transport ourselves in the future. If you start layering those sorts of changes on top of a reduction in consumption, then I think we've got the chance of getting to the levels of action that we need.
You mentioned action, and you've said in the past that our action isn't matching our ambition. So what is CIWEM doing to push for more to actually be done?
Well, for a start, we have over 10,000 members all around the world who are dedicated to managing the water and environment sustainably. So we support those individuals in their careers through events that allow the sort of discourse that we need, and that involves non-members as well, because it's really important we get those conversations happening generally across the society. We also have a specialist policy unit that works with government, advises government, responds to government consultations, and seeks to influence good sustainable practice.
Climate change mitigation is vital as we work towards a zero carbon economy, but adaptation is rising up the agenda too. What are you doing to push that approach?
We have a changed climate and we have a changing climate. And despite our best efforts, we are still looking at a warming planet with further climate change to come. So adaptation is an incredibly important part. And if you consider that I think something like 12 out of the 33 sort of major sectors in the UK has no plan at all for long-term climate change, it gives you some measure of how far we have to go. I suppose if I was to look at a sector which is actually being quite successful recently and has a good plan in place, then I would point to the water sector actually, both in terms of supply and in terms of flood risk management. So the water companies in the United Kingdom have set themselves a net zero target to reach by 2030, which is incredibly ambitious when you think how much energy that sector uses and how many materials it uses. And on the flood risk side of water management, we have a new strategy now that's been launched by the Environment Agency, which sets out an approach which is very much based around adaptation and also resilience and improving resilience.
Overall, are you of the view that we've got this, we can do this if we all put our shoulders to the wheel, or are you a bit fatalistic about it?
I absolutely believe we can do this. I really do. I think though we do need a recognition that this requires a good degree of behavioural change and a change of approach in the way we do things. I think to kind of look to technology as being the solution here, the silver bullet, that's not going to happen in the short term. The sort of technological advancements that we need are going to take a little longer, and so behavioural adjustment is what's required. But absolutely, I'm not fatalistic about this at all. I really do think that if, as you say, we all get our shoulders behind this, we can make the difference that's required.